So let's see, am I live? Let's see, am I live? I am loud though. I am loud though. Okay, I think that's good. So let's test it with some audio. Okay, I think that's good.
Svelte. So he is a great person to teach this massive Svelte course for beginners.
Sugar, I forgot to talk over it, so let me talk over this so I can actually see what the sound is like on both of us. Let me talk over this so I can actually see what the sound is like on both of us. Yeah. Alright. Sounds good. Looks good. Seems good. So, let's go back here. Welcome. It's been a while, but I'm back to making some videos about learning some new stuff, I guess. So let's crack on. And so basically, there we go. That should be fine. What we're going to be learning about is Svelte, and this is so that I can learn the language and potentially get a summer job from it. So never know, but basically it's through FreeCodeCamp, which is, I would say, quite a reliable learning source. As the name suggests, it is free, so that's always good. And it's a 23-hour course, so should take me a while to get through, but it'll be interesting nonetheless. And yeah, I mean, I can't lie, not really sure what else to say, so might as well get started then, huh? Let's have a listen to what they've got to say.
Lee Howe is a core maintainer of Svelte, so he is a great person to teach this massive Svelte course for beginners. Svelte is a front-end JavaScript framework for making interactive web pages. Lee starts at the absolute beginning with creating your first Svelte component and continues on to teach every component you need to know to develop applications using Svelte.
Hello, I'm Lee Hao. So today we are going to write our first Svelte component. So, usually when I write a Svelte component, I
Open the
head
window.
over to the Svelte REPL. It's like a playground where you can write your components without having to worry about all the setup. You just write and then you take a look at the results. And if you're happy with it, you can even download the code and run it in your environment. So let's see. So let's head over to the REPL, which is svelte.dev/REPL. Or if you are in the svelte.dev website, you can come over here to the top.
Alright, let's have a look. Svelte.dev, that should be it.
Right corner and click on the REPL button. And so here is this playground that I mentioned. You can play around with it, type something and see the results immediately on the right. And you can download, as I said, which you can run your code. So we'll take a look at that later on. But first, let's zoom this up and let's start with our first component. So I'm going to name this first component. Svelte component. So first thing first, a Svelte component is
Oh, how has it done that? Oh, Okay,
for
so
first component. So I'm gonna name this first component. Svelte component. So first thing first, a Svelte component is written in one file, and the file extension is have to be end with .svelte .svelte. So a Svelte component is a file that ends with a .svelte extension, and the syntax of what you're gonna write in here is gonna be similar as HTML. So a Svelte syntax is actually a superset of the HTML syntax. So if you're familiar with writing HTML, you can just write it over here. For example, I'm going to write h1 hello.
I think I should create a. So it's using. Huh. Download. Full screen. Search. What I'm thinking is there a way to clear? Run this. Oh. So it seems to be auto doing its thing. So what if I do the h1 tag sort of thing? h1 and and I just hello? That should
My first Svelte
okay, so I think this is messing with it, so but then no, I think all I should do is just use these that are provided and then just write a code in here. Might as well. H1, why am I writing I? Do I need brackets? I don't need brackets. Component.
Oops. And I'm gonna have a few paragraphs. Let's see, paragraphs. Hello world. And I can have style text like how you would in your HTML file, where you can have style tag and style your elements that you like. So I'm gonna make my h1 the color Rebecca purple. This is the purple color that Rebecca loves the most, and Rebecca's favorite color. And you can change p tag to maybe a different font size 4 pixels. Right, so you can add styles, you can have HTML just like you would in HTML.
Okay.
Right, so you can add some attributes. So I'm gonna come over here and say add an anchor tag. So link to my YouTube, and I can add attributes just like how you would in HTML. So I'm come over here and say, okay, this is my YouTube channel. Hopefully you come up. This is my link to my YouTube channel, so you can click over here. So you can have href attributes, and you can have children like you would in HTML. So let's see, let's come over here. I'm gonna wrap all this within a div.
Alright, I don't know, I'll just grab Wi-Fi speed test and then grab that. Oh, this is arbitrary, but sure, and then that should work. Yes. Nifty little website. So let's see, where were we?
Right, so you can have children, you can have attributes, just like you would in HTML. And lastly, code. The logics for your components will be in a script tag. Right, so we will explore how you will write your logic for your components, but just for you know, anything within script text will be like JavaScript, so you can have something like let's name equals to Li Hao, right? This is Java.
I think it might have gone offline for a sec.
We will explore how you would write your logic for your components, but just for you know, anything within script text will be like JavaScript, so you can have something like let's name equals to Li Hao, right? This is
I think it might have gone offline for a sec. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's recovered.
so that is it. Lastly, I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna download this and gonna open it up. And allow me to open up my code editor. So I'm using a VS Code over here.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be using as well. Or I want to be using at least. What have we got in here? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new should it here? Yeah, I'll do it here. Okay. That's as well, yeah. Yep. And I'll chuck my things in here, so open folder, documents. Yep. Yeah. Okay. And then I can download this. And then chuck in here, I guess.
Where I have
Does he extract that? Probably. If I had Wi-Fi. Svelte for VS Code. Yep. Sounds okay. Okay. Sure. And now I've got highlighting. Good. So it looks a bit better. Where were we?
This is a quick preview of how you would do is you would come over here in a min.js file and you would import your Svelte components, and it will be a class. It will be a default export, and you can use it where you choose where to mount your components. I will talk about this in more detail later on.
This is a bit
how to set up your environments, how to set up build settings, right? But this is just to let you know that your components will be in a .svelte file, and you can import from anywhere and use it like a component, like a class.
Have an idea for a business,
God.
but no idea how to get started? I'll customize.
Like a component, like a class. Let's talk a bit more in detail about styling in Svelte components. So over here,
I think so. It seems like it's going to be made of like little chunks, but you can't even see what chunk it is because it's just so small. Styling, reactivity, attaching events as well. Yeah, anyway, so that was the first step, I guess.
my screen, we seen what we have left over from the last video, where we created a H1, a paragraph, a div, and a link, right? And we style it using CSS within a style tag. And now I have another component called components.svelte, and I'm going to import this component into my app.svelte, right? So
Component free. Component. Svelte lists before saving your app. Oh, okay. Well, I guess let's not save it then. Yeah, okay, so script, import
So bear with me if you are not familiar with this, because
component
we're gonna talk
from
about them more in detail later. But
component, okay. So we call it all one, so component. Does that change anything? No, shouldn't have. Anyway, why am I trying? I keep on thinking I can save it. Anyway,
as you can see, how I import is I'm gonna import components from the file, and then when I can drop my component over here, right, like this. So my first component, hello world, and link to my YouTube is from app.svelte, and another component by world and link to my Twitter is within another component. So what I'm gonna share today is a few things. First, the style that
I see only got one component. Seems like it. Same component. What has he got?
within a
Okay, so if we just do p let's say new component. Okay, so that seems to can't save it. That seems to work. And if I it's giving me an error. So yeah, I do going to the component. I don't know how he's done it without
component.
having
So what I'm gonna share today is
the initial one,
few
but
things.
let me just double check. Yeah.
Components from the file, and then when I can drop my component over here, right, like this.
Oh, is that like a simplified way to do it? Might be. So this is giving me an error. But oh, okay, that's something new. Okay, that's cool.
So my first component, hello element. The style that you write within your component is going to be scoped, meaning all the styles that you write only apply to all the elements within this component. See, take a look at this. I have the same heading 1, paragraph, and div and anchor tag in another component. But if I write the styles over here, it's only going to apply to the H1 in my component. Only my first component is being colored in purple, and only the paragraph within this component is going to be font size 44 pixels. See?
Okay, that's cool.
Paragraph in another component is much smaller. So first thing, the style is being scoped within your component, meaning any elements, it only apply to all the elements within this file that you look at right now. So it means that actually Svelte will read through all the selectors and figure out what element that it will apply to, and then does some Svelte magics over there. So this gives us a few advantages. First is that, of course, you are more confident with the styles that you're writing right now, because you will make sure that it will only apply to the components over here, to the elements over here. Of course, not just limits to tag. If you can have a class like this, class, I'm gonna say links, and I can style it over here as well. So links will have let's see, text align right. So your right align, and even if you have another class over here, it will not right align, right? So it's not just elements.
So it's all
that can
separate,
have
yeah.
Class selector the same. It will only applies to all the elements that's written within this file component. So you are confident enough that if you change something, it will only apply to all the elements within the component. So you don't have to worry about messing up other components. 2, because Svelte knows what elements it will apply to, it also means that if you write something like, for example, if I already remove this, I don't have any elements that has a class links, actually Svelte will know that you have a selector that is not applied to any elements within this file. So
That's quite good.
that's a warning. And also and so that you know that you have to remove them because it's not applied to any elements anymore. What's good about it is also that during a compilation, Svelte actually removes it. So if you go to look at the CSS output, text align right is no longer here.
Oh,
So looking at this
so that's what these
output,
do.
I do have to point out that right now, if you look at, I want to point out actually how this works. So Svelte will actually find out all the elements that will be targeted, and then add a special class to the elements that will be that will be targeted by all the class, and then it will use that class to increase the specificity of your selector. Of course, your selector will be more specific right now, but it will make sure that they will increase the specificity the same way for all the selectors, so that if you have selectors over here, make sure that the specificity, the relative specificity among these selectors is still the same, right? So that it does not just add like a class over here and then make this slightly higher specificity than the links. It will not do that. Like, it will make sure that relative specificity is still maintained. So if I come over here and inspect the elements, you will see that because I'm targeting H1 and P over here, if you take a look, only H1 and P will have that special class applied. Let me zoom. Hopefully it's not too small. Alright, so let's me zoom and scroll. So only the H1 and the P tag will get that special class applied, but the div and anchor tag, because you are not you don't have any selectors that applying to this element, so that so the special class will not be added to these two elements. Right? So Svelte will do what is the most optimized thing. It will not just apply blindly to all the elements. So look again at the CSS output. We have H1 and P being increased with this class special class. Right? So just let me demonstrate the case where I'm saying that if I have class over here, say links, you'll make sure that if you come over here, links.svelte and p.svelte, so relative specificity is still the same. Is still one up in the class specificity. Yep. So this is scope styling.
Let me just listen to that again.
Specificity, but Svelte, so relative specificity is still the same. Is still one up in the class specificity.
Oh, okay, so classes are just like lower priority than whatchamacallit?
Yep. So
regular
this
tags.
is scope styling, And this is not just applied to selectors, it also applies to keyframes, animation frames. So if I come over here and say keyframes, I'm gonna write a zoom animation. So bear with me. Let me type that out. Transform scale 3, and maybe 50% time I'm gonna transform scale 0.5. Okay.
This is all new to me, but sure.
Zoom animation for my header. Come over here, animation, and then I will say zoom 5 seconds, infinite. So you see that I'm applying an animation to this H1 for 5 seconds with this zoom. And my point is this zoom is being scoped to this component only. Meaning if I come over here, I'm going to copy this and I want to apply it to my H1 as well. Sorry, I should write style H1 animation style. You'll see that zoom is not applied to these elements, right? Or rather, you applied the zoom animation to these elements, but zoom is not defined because these keyframes that you write is only limited available to your element over here.
So basically everything is specific
animations out there
to its own
so
like component, I guess.
Output, you will see that animation, although it's modified, but you can still vaguely figure out that this keyframe name has been changed. You will add svelte dash zoom special, just it's hopefully it will be unique animation name, and then you also apply that to your animation. So this animation that you write over here is scoped within your component. So you may ask me like, yeah, that's great, but what if I want my styles, I want my selectors to be not just applied to the components over here. I want it to apply to all the H1s out there as well. Yes, so if you want to do this and you are very sure that you are going to do this, we have a backdoor hatch that you can work around, right? You can, this is like an escape door to use if you want if you are sure enough that you want these selectors to be available globally. And how you would do it is you will add a pseudo selector called global with your H1. So immediately if you take a look at, let's come over here and inspect first, immediately you can see that your let me expand. Your H1, immediately you can see your H1 no longer has that special class because it's not going to target this H1 only, right? So it does not need to have that special class anymore. And if you come over to look at the CSS output, H1 is no longer having that special class. So this H1 will have effect to all the H1s out there, right? So if you look at here, you can see immediately this component is also purple color as well, right? So if I come over here for p tag global, you see that by wool, by wool will be
okay, let's actually try some of that. So let's do the p tag and then let's make it global. And then global, what should I do? It's font size. Font size and 30. That should in theory change something. Oh, I need pixels. Oh, good deal. Yeah. Global P. There we go. Spelled it. So we've got that as global. So if we have one in here, so new. So we've got, yeah, so they're both size 30 now. So now if I change it to 20, yeah, they change at the same rate. But then if I do the color red, huh. H1. That works. P. Is it because I've already defined it once? That works. Oh, it's in an A. So if I had test here and I did this as P, that makes more sense, yeah. Then that will become red. But even though this one isn't a P, it's actually not changing, which is quite good. Okay.
44 pixels as well. So this selector will become a global selector as well. And lastly, you would ask me, how about my animation frames? I want to have a zoom over here. If I want to use zoom out elsewhere, say I want to come over here and say H1 and P to apply the zoom animation. How do I make this animation keyframe to be globally available? Well, you would have to prefix it with a global dash. So you have to prefix your animation name with this prefix, and there you go. It will be available globally. Right? So if you take a look at the CSS output again, your keyframes will be named zoom, and it will available everywhere.
That's quite cool.
So there you have it. You can CSS styles in Svelte is scoped to your components, to all the elements within your components only. And if you want to escape from this, there's an escape door for you, which is to use a global pseudo selector. Pseudo selector, or you can use a global dash for your keyframe to make it globally available.
If I'm gonna have an advert after every single one, I'm gonna be upset.
Let's take a look at how we can add data to your Svelte components. Over here, I have written a Svelte component which has a heading which says hello world and an image tag that has a logo for the Svelte logo. What if I want the contents of the header to be dynamic? I want it to come from somewhere that I can define from in my code, can import from somewhere. And how about I want a dynamic image URL for my image tag, right? So that is when you need to write a script tag over here. Script tags in a Svelte components allows you to add logics to your components, add logics and datas in your component. So I can come over here and define content, say hello. Okay, let me just copy instead of typing it out. Hello world. And I can also have an image URL, which is this one. Copy it. Whoops. And if so that I can have dynamic contents over here, dynamic data, and I want to apply it to the to my elements over in below. So how do I do that? Well, in Svelte, if you want to use JavaScript expressions in your HTML, you would use curly brackets. Curly brackets. So instead of writing hello world, I can have my curly brackets, and within a curly brackets, I can write any JavaScript I want. So over here, I can write content. So any.
So, in theory, this should get me to dog link. Let's go back a bit. For a sec.
And
yeah. Don't know why he's using this one, but I should probably be using the single quotation mark. So, and yeah, maybe this one. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm not saving this.
So that I can have dynamic contents over here, dynamic data, and I want to apply it to the to my elements over in below. So how do I do that? Well, in Svelte, if you want to use JavaScript expressions in your HTML, you would use curly brackets. Curly brackets. So instead of writing hello world, I can have my curly brackets, and within a curly brackets, I can write any JavaScript I want. So over here, I can write content. So any variables that you define within a script tag, as long as it's at the top level, then it will be available for your script tag. What I meant by top level is that if I come over here, if I define a function, function full, and I define contents over here.
All the wind is right bad. I just realised I need the yeah, I don't need this, but what I do need is one of these. Oh, there we go. And then now I need to do img. I'll just do it to all the images and then oh, and it's already done it as auto. That's quite good. Auth attribute. Okay, sure. What does he have? Yeah, so I use the logo, so I'm just gonna have dog. There we go. There we go. Okay.
Hello, by world. Then this variables that you define is actually scoped within your function. It's not at the top level. So if I comment this out, then you will say content is defined.
Yeah, oh, that's quite obvious.
So I have to define it at the top level.
Okay,
Same
makes
thing
sense.
goes for your attributes. I can come over here, remove this, and have a curly brackets. So anything within curly brackets will be able for me to write JavaScript. So I come over here and say image URL, paste it in, boom, I have a dynamic attributes in my HTML elements. So a
That's
few
quite
things
good.
about this. You can omit if this is just a value for the entire variable will be available for your attributes. You can actually omit the quote sign. Well, it is useful for some people where maybe they are writing HTML. They are used to writing HTML. Then you can keep that quote sign, and it's also useful for editors that does not support Svelte. You have that quote sign on. It makes the and you can style. You can select your language as HTML, and then it will syntax highlight. The syntax highlighting will still works fine. So that's one thing. And secondly, if I instead of defining image URL, I'm gonna define as source over here. You see, I'm typing source equals to source. This may be a bit more keystrokes that you type, so we create a shorthand for this. If you have case like this, you can actually write this instead. So this curly brackets wrapped
That's
with a
cool.
source is exactly the same as writing source equals source. So if
What
you have
if?
a variable name,
So in theory, this should not work because it's not called source yet. But if it's called source,
name
it
of the
would
variable
work.
is exactly the same as your attribute name, then you can have this shorthand instead. So in summary, you can write a curly brackets and you can have any JavaScript in there, be it the content or an attribute. And lastly, we've seen how you can write a shorthand for attribute if your variable name is the same as the attribute name.
Bloody hell. The bad bit. How are we doing?
A CRM shouldn't weigh your budget down.
We are going to talk about reactivity in Svelte. Well, reactivity is a pretty fancy word that means that if you update a variable, it should reflect onto the DOM or your screen. In the previous video, we've seen how we can add dynamic data, define your data in the script tag, and then you can use them in your HTML templates. And today we're going to look at how we can update those data and then get it reflected onto the screen. So over here I have a count. It says I define a count variable as 0, and I show it on the screen using the curly brackets count over here.
Okay, I want to do this. So button, click me. Okay, sure. So in the script, we've got these, and then import. Put on Svelte, and we can do let count equals to 0. Yep. Okay, and then function for increment. It's gonna do count plus, and then afterwards I can do. I don't know why he's got count outside the script, but I'll also add the button. What am I doing? Button. Res. Now I would assume we would add it somehow.
And that's it. Right? And I have a button, and this.
Oh no, I see what it's saying. So count is actually printing out what count is. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that's cool.
These buttons, what I want to do with this button is I want, when I click on this button, it will increment the count variable. So we haven't learned about events handlers yet, but let me just type it in and show you that how it's done. We'll talk about them in more details in the next videos. So in this video, just assume that this will add on click so that it increments the count.
Increment.
So how do I increment the variable count? I can do it like how I would do it in JavaScript. I just come over here at count and then I say plus plus. This will increment the count. Will it work? Yes, of course. It will just work like this. So you come here, you increment count, and then it just works. It's like magic. You don't have to do anything else.
Magic.
So what happens over here? Well, actually, Svelte will analyze the code, read through all the code, and it will has a sense of what are the variables being used in a template. And these variables is called a state. A state within your component. So this state is only for your components. So the state we have over here is called count. And whenever we try to update the state, Svelte will know as well. So whenever you update the state, Svelte will update the components, updates the elements, and then reflect. Over here, you're using console, right? It will update these elements, and so that it will reflect the latest value of the count. So now this begs the question: how does Svelte knows that I'm updating the state? Well, it tries to analyze the code that you write, but of course it has its limitation. So there's a few things that Svelte looks at, and Svelte knows that it's updating the state. So here, let me list them what they are. Right, first is assignments. So if you try to assign counts to another variable, so let me remove this for now. Counts equals to 10. This is assignment. You're assigning 10 to count. Svelte knows that this is updating the variable count, right? The state's count. So I click, see 10 appears on the screen. Secondly, let me comment this. Secondly, you can have update statements. So what are update statements? Update statements are like this. This is like updating. This is a unary operator that updates a variable. So this works. You can have update assignment. So counts plus equals to 2. You comment this. You click. Your plus equals to 2. So plus plus, minus minus, plus equals, times equals, divides equals, times equals, all these are update statements. Svelte knows that you are updating this variable count. And if count is a state variable, then it knows that it needs to update the component. So let me comment this, and let's take a look at the third one, and it's the last one. Updating or assigning a property. So say for example, instead of having count, I have an object. Object equals, and then this object has a property called count, so that I don't have to change too much of my code. So over here in the curly brackets, any JavaScript you can write, so I can write object.count will still works. So here, if I try to update this property, say I try to update it by say object count plus plus, then this will still works. So how Svelte looks at this statement is that I see you're updating a property of an object. This variable called object.
Okay, that's quite good. I want to have something like that as well. So that obj equals to and then let's have a that statement equals to nothing, and then we have statement This equals to I was ran. Okay. Unexpected token statement plus. So you can't do plus operators. Oh. That object. Oh, I see, I'm doing this wrong. This needs to be over here. And this needs to be in here. And now this in theory should work. So then Bob, I'm gonna use this instead because he keeps using it, so probably need to. And oh, don't need to do that. In theory, I need to put the statement. Let's put statement after the button. It should be obj. Wait, obj dot, and right clear statement is not defined. But obj statement that should be a thing. Oh no, it should be obj dot. And then if I do plus equals, oh, yes. Let's go. Okay, so we can interact with objects and also just variables.
And if this variable is a state variable, right? Again, if this variable is a state variable, in this case it is, then it knows that this is when you do this, you need to update the components. You have to trigger a component update. Same thing goes with object.counts equals to 10. Let me comment this out. When you click, it will update as well. So updates or assignments on property will kickstart that. So anything that falls outside of this tree category will not kickstart. The Svelte will not know that you're actually updating the variable, and thus the Svelte will updates or assignments on property will kickstart that. So anything that falls outside of this tree category will not kickstart. The Svelte will not know that you're actually updating the variable, and thus it does not runs an update cycle. Which means that you're still able to change the variable, but then it's just not reflected on the screen. So let me get you a few examples. So not an update to Svelte. So first is again we have an object, right? So let's take this example. If an object, if I assign this object to say data, and I come over here, data.count plus plus, you would expect that the object count has incremented, right? You would expect that if I click this, you should see, but no, it does not. Why? So Svelte looks at this. Yes, it's an update statement, but this data is not a state. This variable data over here is just a variable within this function. So it has no idea that this data over here is a state. So that's why it does not updates the component. So you may ask me like,
Makes sense.
well, this is obvious, right? Data is equals to object. Yeah, this is obvious in this case, but what if you have another case where data comes from a parameter, something else, right? This is object, you pass by reference, you update this data, you should expect to see it reflected. But how does Svelte knows? You have to trace a lot of things. So Svelte does not know at all. It is too difficult to know. So that's why if you are updating a variable and this variable is not a state object, it will just look at this statement, and if this statement, the object is not a state, this is not a state, then it will not kickstart an update cycle. Just so you know that we have already updated this data, but it's just not showing on the screen. I'm going to come over here, have another function called do something else, and I'm going to this time round I'm going to say object dot full equals to 1. So calling this function will tell Svelte that object has updated, and you need to go through and update the component. So if I have a button over here, says do something else. Right, so the point I want to show you is this. If I click increments a few times, the data is pointing the same object as the object. It's the same reference. So you should have already updated the count. The value should have changed. But then Svelte does not know that it needs to update the component. So that's why you don't see this being reflected over here. But right now, if I come over here, I have a do something else, and this do something else assign 1 to the object, right? So it looks over here, object.full object is a state. So I'm gonna update my component. So if I click this right now, you see that it reflects immediately, right? It tells that object has updated, so it knows that you need to update all the element that relies on the object. It comes over here, it looks at object.count. What's the value right now? It is 11, so I need to update. So you see 11 reflected on the screen. But if you click again this, nothing happens, because Svelte just look at this statement, it says data. Data is a state. No, okay, I can't do anything about it. Right? So this is something you need to know. You need to know this is a limitation of the Svelte's reactivity over here. Let's take a look at another example. This time around, we're gonna look at methods. For example, array methods. So calling a method. So if I have object as an array instead, and I am going to call object.push. Okay, so here I am going to say object.length. Right, so every time when I call, I'm going to push one item in, and over here I should show the object length. I want to see the length of the object. But if I click, nothing happens. I think better you should just JSON.stringify so that you can have a better look at all the items. Right, so I click, nothing happens. Again, object the push. Svelte has no idea you're calling a method, whether this method will affect this object itself. No idea at all. It could be just calling a function method and it does something else, like console log, or do something else, right? It has no idea that this will affect object. So that's why it does not update everything. So if I come again to click at this something else, this will do an assignment, and assigning object tells that object has changed, and then hopefully Svelte will update this, right? So if I click here, see, it's updated because Svelte knows that, okay, you are updating object. So I come over here, object has changed, JSON 25 of object has changed, I reflex it on the screen. So now Svelte knows, right? So calling a method or update, or you assigning a reference to another variable and update that variable, Svelte has no idea that you are changing the states. So these are the few caveats of limitation of the Svelte's reactivity. Lastly, let me share you with a tip. This tip hopefully will help you to understand this whole reactivity pattern. So over here, Svelte will compile all this code into JavaScript. So let's take a look at the JavaScript outputs. Come over here, we scroll down, you would probably see this increment function. Right? So everything that we've written is copied over here. Right? It's nothing special. Well, nothing special is the problem. If you don't see anything different, then which means that when you try to change the variables over here, it does not trigger an update cycle. If you scroll down to do something else, you see that something is different. You see this $invalidate function. This function tells Svelte that, hey, update this update this object, and then also kickstart a new update cycle. So if I uncomment this, you see that in each statements that I said will kickstart an update cycle, you see that they all comes together with a $invalidates. Well, count does not. Okay, that's because count is no longer a state, right? So if I define count over here, you probably will see that, and to use it to show this count over here, you'll see that all of them will have the $invalidate function being called alongside with them, because it knows that you are updating a state and this state is being used in your template, so go update, right? So all this has invalidated, but the case that I say, the caveat, the limitation does not have. So hopefully these little tips will help you to better understanding how Svelte reactivity works. So try to write something on the left and take a look at the right and see whether Svelte picks it up at this $invalidate function, and you know that whether this will kickstart an update cycle.
Step into Wix Studio, where creative freedom meets absolute.
I think we've just about done an hour and we're 40 minutes into this. Yeah, I'll check over how the video / stream went, and yeah, see what happened. But up until this point, let's go over what happened. So we have entered into the Svelte developer environment just through the browser, and we have done some HTML code up until here, and then done some CSS here, and then some Svelte code that's kind of like JavaScript, I guess, over here. And then what we did is we, just had a heading, we had some paragraphs with a link, as you can see right there, and then we were referencing content from the script, which is just hello there, that's being set here. Now we've got a button with some actions that we haven't really explored fully, but it's basically recording what's happening, and then an object statement is being put out there for us to see, and we made the H1 blue, paragraph red. We can also change global variable, so all the global paragraphs are now font size 20. So this one and this one are now font size 20, and then just made the image look a bit smaller. And then for the image, which is up over here, we've actually inputted data that's been stored in a script, and we have important component which we're using here, which is just a Svelte component. It's got another paragraph in it which we are using, and also able to edit with global, but would not be able to edit with color red because it's in a different component. And then lastly, we had a count set to 0 and an object with a statement, and with our function we are able to increment. So if I think I just change something here, we are able to increment the count and also add to the object, so affect an object with our function, basically adding hours ran to it. So if I press it, it goes up by 1 and hours ran is added to the statement of the object, and that's being printed out over here, count and object.statement, and I can carry on pressing it. And then lastly, you can see the CSS that we've used, and also all the refreshing parts of the JavaScript output. Yeah, I think that brings it all together. This was just a quick one, just to trial and error and test everything, so should be good, but from what I've seen, we're all good. So been a pleasure, and I might see you